And I'm talking about Kyler Murray. Is this finally his debut this week?
It's looking that way, and a lot of reason to be excited. The Cardinals have done, in my opinion, the right thing here. Now, say what you will about them tanking, not wanting to win. That's why he's not playing till now. Sure. But either way, this is about 10 months since his surgery. Because remember, his surgery wasn't until 3 or 4 weeks after his injury. So I believe his surgery was January 3rd. So he's a little over 10 months now, which is a reasonable time frame to return from an isolated ACL tear. He didn't have any other tissues involved. Now, reasonable to return, but is he going to be running at the peak Kyler Murray level that we know him to run at? Probably not. That's probably not going to be the case all season. Next season, for sure, no doubt. But his throwing should be just fine. Now, the thing with Kyler is 30% of his fantasy points come on the ground. So while I'm excited to watch him play, excited to see how he looks physically, I am not interested in having him on my fantasy team. There's a lot of people right now saying, oh, Kyler Murray, league winner. Well, you're not going to have all of that 30% rushing upside. And who does he have to throw to? Like, how could you possibly be excited about him in this offense? I understand he's a dynamic quarterback. He's fun to watch, but he's not going to have an elite couple of weeks here for from a fantasy standpoint.
Right. I didn't realize 30% of it. I mean, I know he's obviously a rushing quarterback, and that's what brings him that great floor when he's in his prime. But 30% is pretty significant. And if you don't think that's going to be at full strength, Tom, I don't know who he's going to throw the ball to. You got Brown, you have who I'm going to talk about later, Trey McBride, who might come out. But I will say, Tom, there's something sketchy in the air about this game because how bad are the Cardinals? How awful are the Cardinals, right? 1-8. They play the Falcons this week. They are 1.5 point favorites underdogs against the Falcons. So listen, as much as we think Murray might not be ready, man, I don't know what's going to happen in this game, but Vegas believes in the Cards a little bit. It's just a sketchy, weird game, but anything's better than what Clayton Tune did. I don't know if you saw any of that game. I watched some highlights, man. 2 picks, sacked 7 times. The Cardinals, hold on, everybody, 7 total first downs and 58 total yards. That sounds not very good. And I don't know, Tom, did you ever hear about the Kyler Murray Call of Duty thing? Like how his numbers go down when Call of Duty comes out? Yes. Call of Duty, of course, is coinciding with his return here. It gets released in like a couple days, which I wrote I wrote in my notes, it's historically been an issue for Kyler Murray, but we hope not. And, it is going to be fun to watch Kyler back. And you would probably not play him this week, Tom, just to wait a little bit. I mean, the Falcons D is also not a pushover at all, but you think you'd sit him if you have better options this week?
Absolutely. I would not start him this week.
Okay. Fair enough. Another guy, Tom, we're unfortunately all going to have to sit. He'll go to the IR in real life and in fantasy football is my home team quarterback, Daniel Jones. Brutal. A bad season gets worse for the Giants. He has a torn ACL. What can you tell us about him, at least for next year, or what kind of information can you give us on Danny Dimes here?
So at the moment, from the information we have, it's reasonable for him to be ready to go week 1. Let's think about our factors for readiness to return week 1 after an ACL. Age, he's 26. That's not working against him by any means. It would be better if he was 22, but that's not a problem, his age. Right. I have not heard that he's had surgery yet. Hopefully he can get that very soon. If he can get surgery, say this week, then it's about 10 months until week 1. Let's hope it's not a situation where there's a lot of swelling and they have to wait a month before he can do surgery. By all reports, it's only an ACL injured, although I did see something today where a reporter was probing him, like, was it just an ACL? And Daniel Jones just didn't really answer them.
Oh boy.
So that's something we need to look out for, because if there's other stuff involved, it's going to slow down the first phases of rehab, which could possibly be an issue for him to be ready week 1. And then the final factor is, are they just like a different than the rest of us type of athlete? I would say no for Daniel Jones there. So The timeline here is the biggest one. If he can get surgery very soon, then he should totally be ready to go week 1 and not really see that significant of a drop off in production. I know he's like Kyler, he's also a runner, but he's not the same level of running as Kyler Murray. So I wouldn't expect that much of a drop off for Daniel Jones when he returns next season. And I believe he's owed a lot of money. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see though what New York does, because if they do continue to stink, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft. So
Yeah.
I know they have a lot of money tied to Jones, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in the offseason.
There's a lot to unpack there, and some really good thoughts. Really tough situation, but what would you do if you were the Giants and they had one of those first couple picks? I mean, do you think it's time for them to move on? I'm so conflicted on him, and I'll talk about him in a second, but would you pull the trigger? Are you starting fresh? Or I don't know what they would do with the money, maybe trade him. They'd have to definitely eat a bunch of it, but would you grab a quarterback? What do you think?
I totally would. I have never felt that Daniel Jones was very good. I think he's an okay quarterback, but I think we've seen his ceiling, and it's not anything special. And I don't know how you would move on from him though. Like you would have to,
Hard.
like you said, you would have to eat a lot of that money. And there's so many good quarterbacks in this draft, so you don't even know if the market's going to be good. But if they're picking top 3, 4, and there's some really good quarterbacks there, yeah, I'd definitely go after one.
If they have a chance at Caleb, they just have to. But it's like the sunken cost theory. I think you just pull the trigger at this point. Like as a Giants fan, it's frustrating. I do like him as a quarterback. Real quick, how would you rank him? What is there, 32 teams? Where would you put him? I know you don't have a list in front of you, but like, is he? I'm putting him between 15 and 17. Real life quarterback. Do you think that's accurate? You think worse, better?
I'm probably putting him 20 at best. I really don't think he's good. We've seen so many just dreadful games from him.
I think Dable's brought the best out in him, and I think he's done a really good job. But you could be right that we've seen his ceiling. I think that does make sense. Like, is he real quick? Is he better or worse than Mac Jones?
Oh, he's better than Mac Jones.
Okay. Hopefully, I'm just warming you up, Tom. Russell Wilson right now, currently.
Right now, I would take Russell, but not by a lot.
Jared Goff.
Oh, Goff.
100%. I agree with that. Geno Smith.
I would take Geno over Jones.
2 more. Derek Carr.
I would take Carr.
All right. Okay. And how about Deshaun Watson as it stands right now?
Yes. I would
tough.
take Watson.
Dude, that like 14 to like 22 mix is just impossible. But again, I do think this firmly, and the injury sucks for the rest of our season, and really for Daniel Jones, of course. But I think it's time for them to take a quarterback. I looked at their recent draft picks. I mean, it just hasn't. I mean, a couple of defensive guys. Kayvon Thibodeau's been awesome. I mean, they went with the line a couple times with Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, but like the receivers, Jalen Hyatt, okay, Wan'Dale Robinson, okay. Remember they drafted Kadarius Toney. Like, I don't know. There's some decent pieces here. Their line's been terrible for the past couple of years. I just feel like they've been wasting Barkley and Barkley's prime. He's the only guy you can rely on going forward for fantasy. And last thing, just on the Giants here is this week they are plus 16.5 points against the Cowboys. Holy moly, that's going to be a blowout, and that will keep the Giants. I think that's the biggest spread I've seen in at least this year. 16.5, and I do a pool with my dad every week. I'll take the Cowboys. I'll 100% take the Cowboys. DeVito, I don't even know if he could surpass 100 yards at this point. Like the Cowboy, which also, side note here, I'm rambling a lot today, but that actually worries me for Cowboys fantasy options. I'm not sitting CeeDee Lamb. I'm not sitting Tony Pollard, but like DFS type of situation, like the Cowboys defense could score 3 times in this game. And then it's 28-0. And then you're like, okay, well, no offense. And then you have who's their backup? Cooper Rush, maybe? I don't freaking know, but
maybe.
Sounds
Trey
right.
Lance is there.
Is he? Okay, maybe Trey Lance's sneaky DFS play. Now, don't quote me on that. All right.